gates prepared yet.
You need to try and pick off the units as look at the shields on the Martin.
Oh my god, the drone's gonna take this.
All right, guys, thanks for joining us. This is Cat's Pajamas,
And this is Pain User.
and we are back for more IPL 2 matches. This is more winners bracket round 1. Here we have 6 Jacks. CocoA spawning as our Orange Terran player down at the 6 o'clock position on Terminus. His opponent, and while not trying to be too biased, my boy, it's Duckload WhiteRa, spawning as our red Protoss player. Oh, Special Tactics ahoy. I can't wait to see what both these players are going to bring, though. Promises to be a good game. Terminus, of course, that very fun, huge macro map. So easy to take 3 bases. Would expect nothing less than a massive macro game.
Yeah, I mean, CocoA, one of those new Terran players, 4-6 Jacks. They have a great Terran squad now. They have him and Major, both really talented players. CocoA, actually one of the more surprising qualifiers for IPL 2, along with TQ State and a few others, but definitely one of the underdogs of the tournament, and taking on WhiteRa in the first round is not exactly the best possible situation you could put yourself into, but it's luck of the draw, well, lack thereof of luck. But that's just the breaks for him, so he does have to play WhiteRa going into the round of 1, and we will see how he does. The map obviously is Terminus, and like you said, I think we will see a macro game out of these two players, especially in TVP. This map just really yields to that style of play.
Yep, absolutely. And looked like kind of a snap decision back there to go ahead and put down gas. He had actually saved up a lot of resources and queued up another SCV and decided to put that gas down really late on 13. Let's see, though, Zelnaga Tower being taken by the SCV. Both players not really going to find each other for a while. They are close positions by air. And WhiteRa is going to have easier access to the pocket that allows him into the base here at the top, but CocoA is going to have easier access to this third right here where he can do some pretty aggressive dropping if he so desires. Right now, WhiteRa has gone after his gateway, cybernetic score coming up as well, and not really. Okay, there we go. There's a second pylon sitting at the top right. Really going to be a question of how quick he gets a second gas, but a one gate expand certainly very, very viable, and what a lot of Protoss players will do on this map.
Yeah, definitely. He probably will expand soon after, get a Zealot. And, he is building a Zealot right now, so he's going to get a Zealot and a Stalker out. That'll give him the option of doing possibly a little bit of pressure, but he'll also be safe to any kind of super early pressure coming out of CocoA. Any kind of a Marine Marauder or Marine Reaper type push, and we do have a Reaper coming out of CocoA right now. Interestingly enough, Reaper's not the best harass unit on this map. All the entrances to the main base are pretty much consolidated at the front. There's 2 or 3. I guess you can sneak around the back of the natural and get in there to the left of the ramp. Yeah, so there are 3 entry points, but it's really easy to scout out the frontal entrance prior to the natural and see that Reaper coming in and get troops in position to deal with it. He is going to have that Stalker out. So this Reaper mostly going to be for scouting, trying to figure out what WhiteRa is up to, and we do have a second gateway on the way right now and a third. So it looks like we're going to see a 3-gate Expo or perhaps 3-gate pressure into Expo, and I think this is a great build on just about any map.
Yep, absolutely. And looks like CocoA is actually going after the early command center, and he's not going to have a ton of units up initially. So especially if WhiteRa, it looks like he's actually committing over to concussive shell concussive shell Marauders at this point. WhiteRa running away with his probe there. He's going over to concussive shell Marauders, and he's not going to have a ton of units prepared if WhiteRa does a pretty strong 3-gate attack, and Expo's behind it like you were hinting at before. There's not a lot of defensive structures down yet. He hasn't sat this command center over at the natural. Really curious to see what he does. He's actually going up to 4 racks, though, before he goes after any sort of other tech structure. I
mean, you essentially have to, especially opening with the Reaper and the quick tech lab on the racks. You just need that production to hold off any kind of aggression, and even a 3-gate aggressive build can kill you if you don't have enough racks production to get those units out ASAP and deal with it. But WhiteRa dropping that Nexus hasn't really warped in any units yet. I think he'll probably start to warp in units real soon here, and it looks like he has just started to. getting a few sentries, going to start building up that sentry energy, and not looking to pressure just yet. He's in a little bit of a defensive mode. He doesn't know exactly what CocoA is up to. Hasn't really gotten any scouting information as far as what build CocoA's using, whether or not he has a command center. Didn't send a secondary probe, although that might have been a wise decision considering there was a Reaper out on the field. Probably could have denied most of that scouting. And he is warding that Reaper off with his Stalker right now. They're both playing a little bit of cat and mouse in mid right now, trying to get control over those Xel'Naga towers. And who will the victor be? It looks like WhiteRa has forced the Reaper out of the midfield. CocoA wants to keep that alive. No, he's going to try and sneak it around mid and get some more scouting information, but he just might lose it here. I'm not sure.
It's going to be close. WhiteRa manages to get one more hit, and one more. He only needs one more, and this Reaper is toast. Bye-bye, Reaper.
Oh, he didn't even have the cool jetpack animation. He just exploded.
It just kind of went down. Oh, but it's okay because his death is going to be avenged by a pack of Marauders and Marines. So now CocoA's going to make his way across. WhiteRa, though, has a good number of force fields.
More than enough.
And it looks like he's going to be able to get in with those Zealots, although he has a few trapped behind, and that's not the situation he wants to really find himself in, although he is forcing those units back from CocoA. He's going to make his way back. It looks like WhiteRa went to a 3-gate robo builds. Will probably transition into some sort of a 6-gate robo on a couple of bases. But of course, when we're talking about WhiteRa, that robo isn't necessarily indicative of just Colossi or whatever the case may be. He does have the Robo Bay coming up, so he will transition to those, but he can use Colossi drops. He's one of the, the few really high-level Protoss players that does aggressive Warp Prism play and things like that. So, everyone loves watching his creative style, and I'm curious to see what he's going to do. To a degree, I'm going to be a spectator in this.
I mean, he's a player that can use the Warp Prism very well. A lot of Protoss players don't even use it. He'll use it in the mid game, the late game. Sometimes he'll even use it in the early game. And Warp Prism is just such an amazing unit. It essentially just puts your gateways at your opponent's front door. I mean, they're so underused right now in the current state of StarCraft 2. And players like WhiteRa kind of leading the forefront on using them. And there's absolutely no reason not to. So maybe we'll see that coming out of him a little bit later. But that Robo Bay does indicate that he will probably be getting Colossus relatively soon here, and he does have the first Colossus on the way. Probably going to save up and get range pretty soon here. He does have a little bit of a gas surplus, sitting at about 500 right now. There we go. Range is also on the way, so getting quick Colossus, also taking a third behind that. Both players actually taking their thirds. We do have 2 reactors for CocoA, so he's going to be producing a ton of Marines here. Doesn't look like he's going to swap that starport to one of those pre-existing reactors. He's going to go ahead and stay on 2 because he does have another reactor coming on his factory. This is an interesting decision by him. I don't know that the Marines are really going to help him out once the Colossus numbers get beyond 3 or 4. Those Marines are not the unit composition that you want. They're great at this stage in the game, and maybe we'll see CocoA do some kind of a push before too many Colossus get out on the field.
And it looks like there were gateways number 4 and 5. A Forge following this up as well. So WhiteRa is going to go after a few upgrades. Oh, actually double Forge. I like the, instead of just the 6-gate single Forge push that a lot of people do, I like the double Forge in lieu of an extra Warp Gate. It allows you to concentrate on the tech and really getting up a lot of Colossi and increasing their strength as you go along. So we'll see how he's able to manage that force. CocoA, though, does have a large bioforce making his way out to the middle of the map. Like you were mentioned before, this is a huge amount of Marines for this stage of the game. Yeah. And if WhiteRa is able to buffer damage with those Zealots and just allow those Colossi to get off a couple of hits, and I'm like doing the thermal lance motion here behind my microphone for some reason with my hands, not that anyone could see it, but it's going to put him in a really good position.
The spread pattern.
Yes.
And then we do have a drop sneaking over to the third of WhiteRa. Does WhiteRa have any defenses there at the third? He has 1 Stalker waiting for this. That is it. He reacts almost immediately. CocoA not pressuring the front. He did have units there in position to pressure, and he might pick off one of these Colossus here. It looks like he might get it. He might actually get the second as well. No, doesn't get that second Colossus. Not the biggest deal in the world. Picking off that 1 Colossus, while important, wasn't going to allow him to just outright win that battle. He does not have enough units to kill WhiteRa at this point. WhiteRa with a pretty substantial gateway backbone, and I like that about WhiteRa, not just teching up immediately to Colossus and just relying on that as 100% of his army strength. He is mixing in gateway units. He has a nice zealot buffer, and that's really what's important with Colossus. You need that gateway unit buffer, and you need enough sentries for force fields in the proper places and that guardian shield. And if you have ample energy for those, it really just makes the Protoss ball so much more effective, as opposed to those players who just go like, you know, 2 Robo and continue to mass Colossus.
And it looks like this drop tried to make its way in against the CocoA, but there are Stalkers here to prevent that. It looks like CocoA is going to lose that completely. Only picked off 1 Stalker in return, so not a great trade for him. WhiteRa also went out to the middle of the map and took control of the Xel'Naga Tower again, picking off a couple of Marines that were sitting there. So WhiteRa actually in a pretty position. He's even dropping down a hidden Expo in the top right-hand corner of the map. He's already got double Robo down. He's going to his 7th gate. He's got tons of upgrades on the way. He has his Twilight Council researching charge lots as well. So WhiteRa really effectively utilizing his tech paths. I like the fact that he's committing down the Robo and Gateway tech path as well, and not just wildly going to invest a bunch of tech. I've seen too many players that feel that they're ahead, invest in way too many tech paths, and then just get crushed by a follow-up relatively low upgraded Bioforce out of Terran players. So WhiteRa just playing this so intelligently.
And I absolutely love the fact that he has his upgrades going much earlier than CocoA. He's got 2-2 on the way. CocoA just recently starting his 1-0. He hasn't actually put that second engineering bay into use just yet. And keep in mind, his engineering bays were very late. One thing he does have going for him is he has the dual starports with reactors on both, so he's going to be able to get a huge Viking cloud, assuming he continues production of the Vikings. And also, I love this hidden 4th from WhiteRa. It's just in such a good position. Ooh, it looks like he's going to try and sneak in here and kill some of these Colossus. I don't know if this is his timing for a push right now. It looks like he's committing a little bit early. He's going to kill a ton of those Zealots, however, in the front, and the Colossus are beginning to go down. 2 of them have already gone down, and it looks like a 3rd might go down. No, CocoA has decided to pull out completely, and I do not think that that was cost effective for CocoA. He lost his entire Viking ball, a ton of Marines and Marauders, but Marines and Marauders are expendable. The Viking ball is not. That's super expensive, and you basically need it to kill all of the Colossus in order to be in a good situation. And now I think WhiteRa is going to be able to push through here and do a ton of damage.
Yep, he only took down 3 of those Colossi, and you just said it right there. Looks like 1 Colossus may go down, the other may fall as well, but WhiteRa has already traded effectively with this army. He's going to be able to neutralize the rest as well. Good force fields were going down as well, preventing most of the Marauders from attacking these ranged units here in the Stalkers. Now the Stalkers are finally going to go down, but that's going to give WhiteRa a good bit of time to sit back at his base and just replenish. He already has a couple more Colossi out. He already has a good number of Zealots, and he is going to make his way right back across. You were talking about that hidden 4th. He's already got...
Love it.
He's got 1 probe on it for the time being. He'll transfer some more over there in a bit. He also has his 5th coming up at the same time that CocoA is dropping down his 4th. So WhiteRa is always going to maintain 1 base up. He'll be on that rich Vespian Geyser as well. This is not likely to be scouted, as any possible drop pass would probably come around the bottom or through the middle. So yeah, really good positioning there. I just am trying not to let my fanboyism come out too much, but I love the way WhiteRa's playing this game. I really do.
Well, yeah, he's definitely ahead at this point. I wouldn't count CocoA out of it whatsoever. We do have High Templar on the way right now, 5 warping in, and ooh, CocoA looks like he's going to come real close to scouting that hidden Expo, but not quite. Doesn't send those Marines up to that 3rd expansion for the 3 o'clock position. And now that these High Templars are in play, once we get enough Storm out on the field, combined with those Colossus and the fact that CocoA is going with such a heavy Marine Marauder force at this point in the game, it's looking dicey.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. CocoA on 145 supply, WhiteRa on 172. He does have 2 upgrades done, and he is already going to Protoss ground weapons level 3. The armor will follow that in pretty short order as well. CocoA on 2 upgrades at the moment, and he does have +1 on his air. Looks like he is actually dropping in another drop. He's got Marines patrolling everywhere. And, oh, he did actually find the expansion, the hidden expansion. WhiteRa was forced to warp in a Zealot to go ahead and deal with those Marines. So let's see how CocoA reacts to that. Looks like he is bringing up a drop to go ahead and deal with that base.
Yeah, that drop is going to be very tough for WhiteRa to deal with, although WhiteRa having enough gateways to certainly clean up a drop of this size. you know, CocoA might be forced to use 2 medevacs worth of units to actually get in there and kill that base. And he has dropped outside the base, but currently not attacking. His units just staying at the natural. There we go. Pre-stim, and all the units are headed in. It looks like they're going to go for this pylon immediately. If they get that pylon, they will be able to take out this base for certain. But there is a pylon in the back that he could use to warp in units. No, he's not going to be able to warp in any units. Getting both pylons, so that base will go down. But WhiteRa using this opportunity to push in. He has a bunch of Colossus and feedbacking one of the ghosts, killing it immediately. A little bit of a miscontrol on one of those Colossus, and EMP's going down on the entire army, but WhiteRa with the Colossus numbers in the back, just absolutely shredding everything on the ground.
Yep, absolutely. The entire ground force for CocoA is disappearing, and it doesn't matter how many Vikings CocoA has left, because they're not going to do any good against these Stalkers. Stalkers blink in, do manage to take out 1 or 2 more, and WhiteRa is going to be able to deny subsequent reinforcements for quite a while, even establishing a 5th base of his over at near the middle top of the base. Looks like he's going to make his way back in, and when you land your Vikings, it's never what you want to do because they're not all that effective fighting ground units. Another EMP does go down. That's going to help CocoA turn this battle in his favor here. WhiteRa does manage to get away. CocoA has actually taken the supply advantage, but WhiteRa moving back in very boldly with a couple of undefended Colossi to take out that refinery.
I'm actually very impressed at how well CocoA is playing right now. He's been so far behind going into the mid and late game, and he's managed to bring it back just a little bit with drops here, very briefly taking the supply advantage. WhiteRa does have a very, very powerful ball of units, though, and he has so many gateways right now. He's just going to be able to deal with any kind of drop harassment. He's going to be able to reinforce so quickly. We do have multiple medevacs going out at different points, and CocoA just doing a great job keeping WhiteRa honest, keeping him on his toes, and now dropping directly into this cannon, and some zealots warping in right on top of the dropship, going to be forced to get out of there. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier. WhiteRa just has so many gateways that all of this drop harass at this point in the game is not nearly as powerful as it was earlier on.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's actually take a look and see how many gateways he has. There are 4 across the top. That's 8, 11. So I count 11 gateways right now on double robo with full upgrade. So I mean, that is an extremely powerful force at this stage in the game. He's done a great job of maintaining his resources as well. Although CocoA really has done the same. Looks like he is going to make his way in now. Take a look at the upgrades for both players. 2-2 done for CocoA. He is going after 3-3. Looks like weapons just about to finish. WhiteRa, on the other hand, is already at 3-3, and he has a number of Archons in this mix as well. Of course, Archons receiving that buff of becoming a massive unit, not slowed down by concussive shells, makes for a much more effective tank. And let's see here. It looks like WhiteRa's going to swing himself around the side and just try and engage this force. Makes his way up now. He is going to force the engagement. CocoA trying to pull himself back to the planetary fortress. He's charged lots of getting in and doing some good damage, trying not to move within the range of that planetary fortress. Colossi sitting in the back doing so much damage, but all of these Vikings are
great job right there,
taking down all of those Colossi. Absolutely.
Very impressive. Definitely winning that battle is CocoA, but you know, WhiteRa has so much control on the map right now. He has so many expansions. He's currently working off a 5 base, probably going to take a 6th relatively soon here, so it's going to be very difficult for CocoA to win this game unless he's able to whittle down one of those expansions and even the playing field. CocoA also needs to look to take a 5th here. He is his 4th base is still not saturated, not even close, so he needs to get that saturated and get a 5th base because his income right now is just not what it needs to be to support the kind of production that he has. He's only working off of 50 SCVs and only working off of essentially 1.5 bases right now. His 2nd and 3rd are getting very close to mined out, and we do have WhiteRa taking a 6th base up in the 11 o'clock position. It is going to get scouted by CocoA, but I don't think there's anything CocoA is going to be able to do to kill that, and I don't know if CocoA wants to be pushing in right now. He has a very small force, and WhiteRa pouncing on top of his army immediately. Those Zealots getting into melee range and just taking out all of the Marines and the Marauders. Looks like he's going to lose his Vikings on top of this, and wow, little bit of a blunder there by CocoA.
Yep, absolutely. And, you know, WhiteRa, he was even considering right there just going over to a pure Templar and Archon-based army, or a Zealot Archon-based army with Gateway Unit Backbone and things like that, but now has the luxury with killing so many of those Vikings to go right back into Colossi production as well. So it gives him much more versatility. It looks like CocoA does manage to make his way out here to the 11 o'clock, and WhiteRa comes through with a couple of Zealots and cleans up those Marines, so he is going to establish his 6th base. Right now, CocoA trying to go to his 5th, but as you mentioned before, look, he's still not terribly saturated on his 4th. He's mined out of his main. He's almost mined out of his natural. He's almost mined out of his 3rd as well, so not really doing all that much in the way of mining. His economy is, well, for the moment, it looks like he has a bunch of mules called down in, oh, well, that's because WhiteRa's transferring some probes for the moment. But, yeah, so WhiteRa's economy actually does look better, despite what that stat just said there a second ago. CocoA trying to get another large army, but each round of reinforcements that's coming in is not matching WhiteRa's army. WhiteRa just reinforcing a little bit better each time.
Yeah, CocoA really needs to be on top of the SCV production. He's falling so far behind. He's sitting 20 behind right now. When he watches this replay in the future, he's going to be like, oh, man, I really should have been building SCVs for the mid and late game. He stopped at about 50. I think has just completely forgotten. He must be feeling that he's sitting around 70 at full saturation, but he's not even close. So WhiteRa just with a vastly superior income in terms of gas and minerals. One thing that CocoA does have going for him is that when maxed, his army will be not considerably larger, but large enough that it will help him turn the tide of a major engagement. So that is one small advantage to having less harvesters, and he does also have a lot of mules, so he can maybe afford to be a little bit farther behind on the harvester count. You can equalize that a bit with your mules. Has 5 mules down right now, but only 49 SCVs. I mean, at this point in the game, we're at the 28-minute mark. You definitely don't want to be sitting that low.
Yep, absolutely, and he doesn't have a ton of ghosts in this composition as well. Just one ghost that I see. Let's actually take a look. Okay, here he's reinforcing with a couple more, so they're making their way up. There are 3 on the field, but that's still not really enough to deal with the shields of all of these units here of the Protoss army. WhiteRa reinforcing once again. How many Colossi does he have up? He has 4 Colossi, 4 Templar, a couple of Archons, and a ton of 3/3 Stalkers and Zealots. Looks like he's going to Protoss Plasma Shields level 2. That Plasma Shield upgrade actually very, very good for the new Archon, the new Archon style, allowing them to tank much more damage. But it looks like CocoA is going to have to, or not going to have to, but he is maxed, and it looks like he wants to force some sort of a straight line engagement. Cloaks all of his ghosts, runs his units up to the front.
We go.
So the EMPs are going to make their way down. He reveals the force, though. So WhiteRa does manage to make his way in. Feedbacks and storms going down all over the place. Many of the medevacs were just obliterated right away by those feedbacks. Looks like a couple of Colossi going down, but WhiteRa is punishing this army and forcing CocoA away.
Oh, man, accidentally firing at one of the Stalkers with the Cloaked Ghost triggered WhiteRa to immediately pounce, and WhiteRa able to get those storms off before any kind of EMPs hit the Templar, and now WhiteRa is just on a tear, just heading straight for the 5th, and he looks like he might be able, no, he's not going to be able to clean this up. CocoA actually holding on by the skin of his teeth, and he keeps on doing this. Every time I think he's down and out, I think he's going to get absolutely ran over. He falls back to the planetary fortress, uses his reinforcements in conjunction with his army, gets a very good spread, a lot of surface area, and is able to clean up WhiteRa's army. But the problem is every time CocoA attempts to make a maneuver on WhiteRa's side of the map, he just gets absolutely demolished. We've seen it happen twice already. And what?
CocoA GG's.
Wow. That was quite Idra-esque right there.
Now, I think we can agree that CocoA was behind in the way that...
Oh, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah,
but look
the
at
way
the supplies right now.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it was 120 to 120. 120 to 109. And take out the difference in workers, and CocoA actually had the larger army right now. But... we could agree that WhiteRa was ahead. WhiteRa's on 7 bases. He was mining quite a bit, things like that. But CocoA was holding off those attacks pretty well. And if he had tried to establish a couple more bases, you would at least would have thought that he would have tried to fight it out.
I have the funny face on right now.
The funny face on?
I'm lost. I'm at a loss for words. I don't know exactly why players continue to leave. Look, the bottom line is you're in a tournament playing for $50,000. Okay? If it's a practice game, I totally understand. If it's a tournament for $1,000 and you're really not that interested, I understand. When you're playing for $50,000, much stranger things have happened.
Oh, yeah.
As far as people coming back from a deficit of this size, I mean...
I think we can remember Nesty and the GSL last time
Absolutely.
around came back so many times from games. I'm pretty sure I remember Artosis and Tasteless looking dumbfounded as they sat there and watched Nesty make his way into the finals from amazing comebacks. It's not to say that there was a high likelihood of CocoA coming back, but with the way he was managing his drops before, who's to say what could happen if he got off a couple of key drops?
Wow.
Or something. Anything.
Anyways,
Yep.
Regardless of what we think about the situation, CocoA did drop the GG, and as we can see, CocoA has left the game.
So
So
we are.
great game nonetheless. Very back and forth.
Yeah,
31-minute macro game on Terminus. Both players going up to 5 bases. WhiteRa actually up to 7 there at the end. He did have the 7th base on the way. It was done, actually.
Yeah.
So WhiteRa certainly with an advantage. That 7th base could have been easily killed. No defenses there. A couple drops. A few good engagements, and you're back in the game. But WhiteRa, very well played. Had just absolute control over the game. I felt like was never really in a position where his lead was jeopardized. There were a few points where he lost his army, but I think he could have afforded to at all the points where he did in fact lose it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. He was always keeping his resources in good check as well. Even at the end, he was in prime position to just reinforce with a couple more rounds off of that ridiculous number of gateways that he had. So congratulations to WhiteRa. He takes game number 1. We're going to head into game number 2 in just a second, guys, so don't go anywhere.